welcome to today's event. Happy Wednesday. I'm super excited to dive right in, but we'll give folks a couple more minutes to trickle in before we begin. I love to always start things off in an MSP event with a fun icebreaker to our panelists. So I'll ask a couple icebreakers. I'm curious to hear, what was the song, whether it's on the radio or on your Spotify, Apple playlist, that kind of kept you going throughout the week? And I'll start things off with Colin.
Sure. So, probably one of my favorite songs that has kept me going this week is probably a song from The Killer's newest. Well, it's actually just a single. It's not really part of an album yet. It's called Boy. It's a song that just has kept me going this week, so it's been enjoyable.
Nice. Matt, what about you?
This week has been kind of a roller coaster with a lot of things up and down, and I have yet to watch the second Top Gun, and that was playing Danger Zone, and I guess that's what's what it feels like right now. There's a lot of that we're navigating through.
I have yet to see the new Top Gun movie. I hear good things. Brianna,
Yes.
whether it's a movie or a show or a song, what kind of kept you going this week?
Yeah, so this week for me, I would have to say the song, probably Break My Soul, Beyonce. I live in Houston. I went to the same high school that she did. That's my girl.
Oh, that's
And so,
amazing. I
and
love
so
it. I love it.
definitely have her newest album on repeat.
Yeah, it's a very catchy album. If there are any Beyonce fans in the audience, definitely add that in the chat. I also asked where everyone is calling in from, so don't be shy. We love to hear where our MSP community is calling in from. Now we can definitely get started. I'm super excited to introduce the panelists later today, but before we get started, we're here to talk about CLM and CRM alignment and automation for your max ROI. But before we begin, I'm going to say a few words about the team at Modern Sales Pros. So this event is brought to you by MSP, and for those of you who are not familiar, Modern Sales Pros is the world's largest and highest quality community for those in sales management, sales leadership, sales and revenue operation, and enablement, aka our Modern Sales Pros. And our mission is to create an environment for our members to answer questions they struggle to solve on their own and help them to see around corners they may not know about. We do this through live sessions like the one that you're at today, our online forum, our quarterly summits, which I'll talk about in the next slide, and we're also getting back into in-person events. So if you're not already a part of MSP, you'll be invited to join after the event. Now on to our summit, and less than 2 weeks away, we have a 3-day Revenue Excellence Summit, and we have about 24 events of amazing content. You'll hear from speakers from CEO of HighSpot, Gainsight, Cowboy Ventures, and Winning by Design, as well as sales leaders at Lattice, Pendo, Outreach, Atrium, and more. I'm actually going to add the registration link to secure your spot in the chat, so definitely sign up today. It's going to be a great event. And before we begin, I am super excited to announce our sponsor today, Melbeck. Today's event is brought to you by the team at Melbeck, and if you don't know about Melbeck, it provides a modern cloud-based contract management solution with a user experience that delights. Sales, legal, finance, and procurement teams can all achieve contracting efficiencies. See it for yourself in the link here. I'm going to drop it here. And I know the Melbeck team has a product tour that we'll announce later on in this call to dive into it a little bit deeper. But before we begin, I'm going to say a few words about housekeeping notes. So this event is being recorded. If you have a colleague or friend that couldn't make it, don't worry. This event is going to be recorded and made available on the MSP previous event page. Please use the Q&A function at the top right-hand corner. We'll be sure to get them throughout the event. And if you have questions for our panelists, also reach out to them. I'll add their LinkedIn during the introductions. And speaking of our panelists, I'm going to pass it off to our wonderful moderator today, Brianna, to introduce herself and then pass it off to our panelists for introductions. Brianna, take it away.
Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. I'm Brianna Yarborough. I am a VP of RevOps at Pontoon Solutions. Also, I am a co-founder of C-Model, which is a decision intelligence platform that helps leaders with getting to the truth of their data and making executive decisions for their businesses. I will pass it over to Matt. Please introduce yourself, Matt.
Thank you, Brianna. Hello, everyone. My name is Matt Patel, COO and co-founder at Malbec. Malbec is a very modern, comprehensive contract lifecycle management, or as we call it, CLM solution. I've been in this space for almost a couple of decades now, working with CLM products in the past. And we started Malbec 6 years ago to basically bring a very modern and configurable solution to the industry that helps sales, legal, finance, procurement, and the entire enterprise come together when it comes to legal agreements.
Absolutely. And RevOps, Deal Desk. How about you, Colin?
Yeah.
Hi, everyone. My name is Colin Levy. I'm Director of Legal and Evangelist for Malbec. I have been a lawyer for all my career, primarily in-house. And so I'm extremely familiar with a lot of the issues and problems that CLM seeks to solve, including, and perhaps most pertinent to this presentation, working collaboratively across functions and ensuring that everyone is on the same page with respect to the status of various agreements and transactions. And I can tell you firsthand that not having a tool in place can make that task seemingly impossible. So it definitely is something that is best solved through having a solution like Malbec solution, and it's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you very much for that intro. Well, let's dive right in. We have a couple of really great topics that we'll dive into a little deeper and have some, firsthand experience from me, and then obviously experiences that you have had throughout your careers as well, to talk a little bit more about what it means to automate and increase return on investment for managing a CLM process and managing a CRM or revenue operations related activity. So the first topic that we have is around adoption. So you implement your CLM tool and you want it to be seamless, and you think about how it integrates with your other systems. Matt, can you tell me what that means for you and how you would explain how Malbec works in this way for your potential customers, your customers today?
Sure, I can. So CLM is, first of all, everyone thinks CLM is a contract management tool. It's a legal solution, just like everyone thinks Salesforce is for sales, revenue operations, and sales operations. There's a lot of tools out in the market, right? It's actually quite confusing who should use what. And when it comes to contracting, honestly, it's not a legal problem. It's not a legal issue. It's a business issue. And increasing adoption for such a technology, which is not Microsoft Word and emails, it's way more than that, is to keep the end users in the solution or the environment that they're used to. So try to take a legal person to go work in Salesforce is not going to work, right? But the same way, try to have a sales or RevOps person go to online editor, Word documents, emails for contracting, and they don't want to do that. They want to be in the CRM or CPQ solution, which is where they work with accounts and opportunities and quotes and deals and speed. Everything about revenue is speed. Unlike other legal agreements that we handle for other departments where, it could take a month or two and it's okay. When it comes to sales, you got, look at, we're September 28th right now. You got 2 more days, right? For those who have a calendar quarter and this is your Q3, you don't want to submit a contract and see that, okay, legal is going to take a week. That's going to upset you. So how can I work in a Salesforce or, Microsoft Dynamics or HubSpot or whatever your choice of CRM is, and get that deal done? Because in many industries and many enterprise contracts, a quote or a proposal is not enough. You actually need a legal contract. So the way we look at it from Malbec is once your deal has reached a certain point, if that contract is your bottleneck and it's going to make it or break it as far as that deal is done for the quarter, then we help you make that happen in the time that it needs to happen in, by keeping the sales and sales ops and revenue ops. I'm going to keep repeating because all of these folks are involved in getting that deal done. How do you get that over the finish line and keeping you in your solution and having that integration so seamless that you actually forget that you're working with a contracting tool. It looks like you're just working as an extension of your quote or proposal or a deal that's in CRM. And I know, Colin, I'm going to turn it over to you because you're on the other side, the legal person that everyone is like, oh, is that legal? I don't know. It's a black hole. What happened to my contract? So please share your perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. It's legal often, I think, is seen as kind of indeed a black hole or a silo where contracts and business goes to die. So graveyard, if you will, for contracts. And that's definitely not my view, nor should it be the view of any legal department, really. Our role is to be a business partner and a business enabler in some ways. And the way to do that in terms of systems is allowing for data to flow seamlessly across the different tools that different functions use, meaning, to Matt's point, that you want to have a tech stack that is integrated where your CRM and your CLM work together, and therefore you don't have to leave whatever tool you are comfortable working in to work on the agreement. Because at the end of the day, what's important to remember about contracts is, the contract document itself is a legal document, yes, but the management of agreements, that's a cross-functional exercise. It's not owned by any single person. It's really a cross-functional journey. And so you need to have tools that support and enable that journey, and having them all integrated with one another is super important. It allows for everyone to work asynchronously on these different agreements, because as we know, thanks to COVID, we're all working remotely in different places and different time zones. So rather than having to wait on someone to do something, you can do what you need to do and leave it prepared and ready for someone else to do what they need to do. And then you can go in and see what they've done and move forward from there. And if something went awry, you can actually see where things went awry, instead of, digging through a long email thread, being like, final version, final version, final, I promise version, and not knowing which is actually the version that is final, so to speak.
Oh, wow. You guys both spoke to the problem and the pain to the T. And when I tell you, as a RevOps practitioner, that is exactly the experience. Running a deals desk or trying to navigate the cross-functional interaction between teams. You've got, sales involved, finance. It is truly, Matt, as you said, it's a business problem. It is not just really, a salesperson's problem. The salesperson wants to move fast and they've got to turn over legal. Legal needs to get the language right. And then the customer's just over there waiting on us with, twiddling their fingers because we're not moving fast enough. And we won't even jump into redlining. We'll save some of that stuff for later. But for me, it's really about eliminating silos, creating automations that are key priorities for RevOps practitioners. We want to make sure that we're closing that time delta between each stage of the cycle, right? The customer journey. And so once we've got a verbal commit from them, we're moving fast. We want to make sure that we get a contract out as soon as possible. It's in their hands. We've got all of the right language in there. And when you move fast, sometimes you make mistakes. So when you have automations and templates and things like that already at your fingertips, it makes your life a lot easier. The other thing that I'm noticing is the larger the deal size, the longer the sales cycle, the more complex the MSA or the SOW is, and more enterprise contracts just kind of float around in the wind after a verbal commit. It takes the legal team a longer time to try to assemble what that contract might look like, or to get the details that they need from sales in order to consolidate that information. And sometimes it ends up on the worst end of that, and it becomes a rescinded commitment. You no longer have that deal. You've lost it. Humans are much slower. We've learned that. So why not use the tools that are available at our fingertips to build, integrate, and let loose with all that will allow us all to move just really fast. So yeah, I appreciate how much you guys have dug into this problem, because it is certainly, over my 16 years of experience in this world, been a problem that I've set out to solve many, many times over. So it is still a problem. Yeah. and now, as we're learning that RevOps is industry agnostic, we're also seeing it's not just for technology companies, RevOps is, meaning this goes out into other industries. And so I'm noticing that trend as well.
We have, no, sorry, go ahead, Brianna.
I was just going to say, if you have any comments on what I just said, I'd love to hear them.
Yeah, one of the other things that I've seen is not only at the end of the cycle where you have all of your terms negotiated and the quote proposal is accepted, but that last mile is the contract. I think of it as right from the very beginning on some enterprise deals. We do this ourselves because, of course, we drink our own wine around here, as we call it. We use our product, Malbec. And if I'm working with a large customer and I know it's going to take a long sales cycle, 3 months, 6 months, whatever it takes, we don't want to drop our MSA on them in the fifth month and they say, oh, wait a minute, you're a cloud provider? We don't do that. Or you don't have a termination for convenience? We don't allow that. Like a lot of the business stuff comes up at that hour. Well, had I known that, I would have negotiated the deal early. So it's something where we actually click a button, initiate a draft MSA based on those deal terms to get a draft MSA out to the customer very early on. Now imagine if you don't have a tool and you go to legal saying, hey, I need a contract created for a prospect I just started talking to, they'll be like, well, I have 10 other things to do. Is this really a priority or is this like a 6-month cycle? But if you have a tool in place where you can click a button and generate that draft right up front with pre-approved clauses, off it goes, and you already know where the deal is going very early on. So I just wanted to add that other use case.
No, I think that's great. And that kind of is a segue into my next curiosity around further accelerating the velocity of drafting what that contract looks like and delving a little bit deeper into the templates that are available, the clauses that are available, and what you're seeing in the market today in various stages of company growth.
Mm-hmm. Colin, I'll let you go first since I took the last one first.
Sure. Well, this is something that comes up all the time in my work is essentially empowering other functions to be able to do more without needing to wait for me to do something. And so the way that this kind of often takes place is through use of templates, use of clauses, meaning that, not only do we have our MSA available to send out to someone early on in the process so they can tell us we like this or tell us, oh my God, this needs a lot of work, and then we work with them and what have you. But in addition, we're further along in the negotiation process. Suppose a customer comes back, and this happens to me all the time, says, hey, I don't really like your, indemnification language, or I don't like your liability language. Rather than having to wait on the lawyer and say, yeah, let me think about what I think I want to respond back with, there is built-in compromise language that then you can insert and say, and the sales team or whomever that's working on the agreement closely with the customer can say, hey, all right, I understand that. How about this language instead? And that really speeds up the deal velocity because it's less waiting on legal, who often is overworked. And it's empowering the sales team and other members to just work faster and have those clauses available to work with, and then have backup clauses in addition to work with. So, those are kinds of things that can really, I think, help speed up deal cycles, even when you're dealing with large customers. In addition, you have different templates. You've got your MSA template. You also have, due to all the privacy laws we've all heard about, we have, a data processing agreement as well, and then have other clauses associated with that agreement that we can then use. And again, these are all widely available through a shared portal, so different members of different functions can access them, use them, send them out without having to wait on legal or someone else to, either draft them up or find them somewhere. And I've been there where I've had to find it because I didn't have a tool, and it's not a good place to be because then you're looking like you're just getting in the way and you're just slowing things down, which, especially in an uncertain economic environment like today, that's not really where you want to be at all, nor does your business want to be there either.
That's right. What about you, Matt?
So I'm going to put on my end user hat because I'm on the other side working with sales. In my role, I work closely with sales and making sure we're hitting our numbers each quarter. And oftentimes, we'll get a negotiated contract back from the customer, and the salesperson will say, okay, Colin, here's all the red lines. And love it when Colin says, well, how badly do you want this deal, right? Because the customer is coming back with a red line on consent for marketing. Like you can't just use our name or logo without approval, this and that, and it's redlined out that you can't use our logo. And or termination, I want to terminate at will or convenience. I don't want to be locked into a long-term contract. Or payment terms, I want to pay 3 months out instead of 1 month out. Those red lines, do we really need a legal person like Colin, or is that really a business decision? Because at the end of the day, legal is just going to say, well, what's this customer? How important is that account? What's the value? And do you want to agree with these business terms? And to Colin's point, we make that self-service. With Malbec in your CRM, if that red line document comes back to sales from the customer, and 60, 70, 80% of the changes they've made are business terms and nothing to do with legal or adding risk to the deal, we have different alternates, right? Our preferred is no termination. Second option may be, okay, we'll let you terminate for XYZ reasons. Third option is if it's really big deal and we really want this account, we'll give you termination maybe after a year. Same with marketing, right? Let us use your logo for case study. We will need your approval. There's all these options. So click, click, click. Sales can quickly swap out those clauses, put it right back to the customer, which would have otherwise taken Colin a few hours, a few days, maybe a couple of weeks to get to because he's got other stuff. So that's what it's all about. Accelerating is not just getting a draft ready. It's the entire cycle of that contract till signature. Every negotiation, if it's taking you 5 days to turn things around, why can't it be 5 hours? Why can't it be 5 minutes? Keep looking at your patterns, and you'll have data in Malbec to see what's your typical position. Every time you work with a large enterprise, have you negotiated the termination clauses 8 times out of 10? Well, then let's give you the option so that you don't have to worry about legal having a draft for you, right? So you use data, you improvise, and you continuously expedite that cycle to accelerate.
Music to my ears, accelerating every piece of the pie, piece of the puzzle that gets us to an end result quicker. We've identified contract approvals currently require heavy cross-functional collaboration. Individual departments, they can often be bottlenecks in this situation, at least in getting the contract out to the customer. And in cases where you just simply don't have those technologies to move fast, you're using tools like Word or tools that you cannot collaborate in with your customer. And so this is particularly true when you're trying to redline, when you're trying to get to a common agreement with that other party, the external customer. And for me, I would say that, that interaction also gives them that first impression of what it's like to work with your business. And so on the other end of the spectrum, my curiosities around time reduction, velocity, and things of that nature are data points for me as a RevOps practitioner in our CRM. Can you talk to me a little bit about contract activity and how those data points are captured, how that process is managed? I'll hear from Matt this time.
Yes. So what do you want to track, right? As soon as you request the initial draft, you want the draft right away so you can send it to the customer. If there's rules set up that says, okay, once you create a draft, before it goes to the customer, your manager, your head of sales, or operations or deal desk, someone has to review and approve. You want to know exactly where it is in that process. In that workflow, did legal already review it? Then I'm not going to bother calling. Is it my manager who's holding things up? Are they out of office? Did they delegate it to someone else? I can see in real time where things are, so I don't have to hunt down where that contract is on my internal approvals. If it's out with the customer, I can see that it's already out and it hasn't come back right from my CRM to indicate that it's been 3 days since the customer has had it. Maybe you want to send a reminder to them, right? What's happening with the red lines, and instead of asking your own team, where's the contract, you know that it's with the customer. When it comes back from the customer, you can have conditional approval workflows so that if payment terms are changed, it goes to finance. If governing law, indemnification, or any of the legal stuff has changed, it goes to legal. If it's they want a higher discount or they want to change the pricing or add more product, whatever it is, it goes to sales or deal desk. So it will route it to the right person. So it's not just sending it out to 5 people when only 2 really need to approve it. And once it goes to those 2 people, if legal already took care of it, but finance has been sitting on it for 3 days, the person in CRM can tell exactly that's the case and go after finance or tag them in the system itself to say, hey, this has been sitting for 3 days. Can you please expedite? So that's what we mean by visibility and tracking contract activity. It's all about, first of all, transparency. Nobody's hiding the truth and where that contract is. It's all visible to everyone. In a manual world, when you don't have a system, you have no idea where that document is in somebody's inbox, right? Which version is where. With an application that integrates all of this together, everyone has the same visibility. So there's nobody making up excuses or telling you something that's not true. It's real. You can tell who has it, how long they've had it, what version is the current, and avoiding that whole communication where you're asking people when they really have nothing to do with that contract.
100%. And holding people accountable, right? I think something that I push a lot are SLAs internal to the business. Like, how quickly can we really turn this around? What is feasible for us? And having something in place that automates that entire process obviously reduces the cycle of time that it takes. And being able to capture the data to tell you the truth of the matter so you can have that visibility is the foundation of being able to hold people accountable. What about you, Colin?
Yeah, so I am someone who definitely thrives using data and making decisions based off of data. So for me, I really want to see a couple of things. How many, what clauses have I used most frequently? What ones have taken the most amount of time to negotiate? And also, who last touched an agreement. Something that Matt alluded to that I really like about the Malbec system is it's really easy to see through the audit trail who last touched an agreement. So if I look in an agreement, I'm like, what the hell happened to this thing? I can be like, you did this. So I'll go to you and say, hey, what were you doing? Not an accusatory way, but just saying, hey, let me know what happened here. Because sometimes business terms change based off of a call they had with the customer, what have you. And sometimes I'm not necessarily privy to that call, but I see the changes made in the agreement, and therefore I can figure out, okay, this happened. So, I can know who to ask for further insight. So, I really think the visibility piece of it is super important to enable better, faster deal flows. And that happens through both being able to have transparency around who's been touching contracts, but also making sure that all the different tools that are touching a particular contract have clear visibility into the other tools. In other words, there's clear data flows between each different tool. And so nothing's kind of operating outside of the tech stack, if you will. And that's something that I think is super important because everyone has their tool that they like, and it's important for those tools to be communicating with one another. And if they're not, you might as well not be using any tools at all.
100%. CRM is your single source of truth, period. And I say that I've said it probably 100,000 times this year. And so it's very important to have integrated systems that talk to each other, that you're capturing those data points that you need to understand what's going on in your business, have that pulse check on what's going on in your business. And when you identify that, that moment that it goes into a verbal commit to when pending is taking 30 plus days, you become curious of why does it take this long for us to actually get this done? And you start to dig a little deeper into it. And what I really like about Malbec is that you have that visibility into what's normally something that's hidden from the company. All you know is that at the CRM level, it's in when pending, we're waiting on the contract to get signed, the customer has it, and it's based off of anecdotal kind of insight from the salesperson. In my shoes, I really care about the data, and that the CRM is always up to date and a clear representation of current knowledge amongst the organization from any sales perspective, finance across the entire organization. And that's the ultimate goal. Unfortunately, that doesn't happen. It doesn't happen at all. And so you have to use automation. Automation helps you really drive in the most painless way ensuring that this is actually happening. You're capturing those data points and you're able to report back on them and reduce, those time deltas or those conversion rates or anything that will help you get to revenue faster. This is a huge impact to revenue recognition itself. If you don't have an executed contract, you can't move forward with implementation, onboarding, any of those things, meaning that time to revenue is impacted. So I also caution, RevOps practitioners to have this in mind as they're designing their tech stack. Think about all of the elements that really come into play, all the data points that you need to consider, the departments that are involved behind those data points, and that'll help you really capture and keep in mind the capture needs that you have for real-time understanding of what's happening in the business, where things stand, not just on the sales cycle side of the business, but along the entire customer journey. And it'll really be something that your stakeholders appreciate you for. You've made their jobs easier at the end of the day. You've automated something that, some companies have people asking their legal team to go in and update, like you mentioned, it's Salesforce. Go in here. This is the legal section for you in Salesforce. Make sure it's up to date. How terrible does that sound?
And that the data you mentioned, that Salesforce or CRM is a single source of truth. The other thing we have seen is Word documents. When you negotiate a contract and in the end you redlined and accepted a bunch of changes that actually change the deal terms that you initially started with. Think about maybe simple things like billing frequency or renewal price cap. If it's in Word and it's unstructured data, right? It's text. How is that change getting back into Salesforce so that next year when you look at data in Salesforce, you know what is the billing frequency for that contract or price cap? That's where, again, CLM with Malbec integration that we have with CRMs, it's bi-directional, right? So if you negotiate the contract and you change a lot of things before it's signed, that data has got to go back to CRM. Otherwise, you've got a disconnect.
Absolutely. That's actually been a problem in the past. I walked into a role and we were comparing our finance data to our sales data in preparation for a fundraise. And so we're moving up to the next series fundraise. And we realized that we were just not on the same page at all because we were not tracking those changes that were happening in contracts. We had the initial conversation from the sales perspective in the CRM, and finance had what was in the contract. That's what WMSA, all of those documents, legal side of the business. And so very interesting that you said that. I've actually lived it. So tell me a little bit about, so Malbec has the smart AI guidance. I'd love to hear more about what that means for businesses that use your tool. Let's go with Colin.
Sure. So I think, when it comes to artificial intelligence, there's a couple things that I think are important to remember about it. Number one, it's not there to do your job for you. It's there to help you. It's there to allow you to spend less time on things that you're not very good at, but AI actually is better at. And that's primarily making sense of large sets of data. In other words, hunting for, problematic clauses or looking for things that may not be in the agreement that you don't necessarily, can find easily and you need to make sure are there. And this is all based off of having sort of playbooks beforehand that then you can tell the AI, here's what we want you to do. The AI does it, and it saves you time from hunting through pages and pages of agreements. So that's really kind of, I think, the thing to understand about AI is it's there to help you save time by saving you from repetitive, time-consuming tasks and allowing you to spend more time on more strategic tasks that AI can't necessarily do. For example, spending time negotiating some complex provision or some, interesting scenario that, was unexpected. But, looking for some problematic clause, AI can do that for you pretty easily and oftentimes in just seconds. And that would probably take you perhaps minutes or even longer to do. And that's just time that you don't necessarily have, nor time you want to spend on that type of task, because it can be mind-numbing when you're looking through a lot of different agreements and your time is very, very valuable and there's only so many hours in the day.
Absolutely. I'm curious from a value proposition and impact perspective. What have you heard from your clients? Like, are they saying, hey, this has helped us reduce by this percentage, this amount of time that we spend in this particular area of the business?
So we track those metrics, and it's a range, and it's also based on the type of contract. And I'll explain that, where can AI help the most? So the best we have seen is reducing the cycle time. Cycle time is how long is it taking to get a contract from draft to signature, that entire process. Reducing that whole process by 70%. And that means that the initial review, right? Somebody's having to read it and understand the risk and what's involved in that contract. The approval workflows. Can the intelligence actually drive it to the right person without having to bother the standard set of 15 people that you have on your approval list? If they're out of office, can you go to someone else? So reducing that whole cycle time from draft to signature, 70%. We've also seen that with the self-service nature of things, AI assistance and playbook reviews, we can reduce the dependency on legal by 50%. So imagine if half of your contracts didn't have to go to legal. I'm sure legal won't complain, right? They will be like, thank you, go for it. Because you put all of the rules and intelligence in the application to drive that contract through the automation. Now, as Colin mentioned, I think AI certainly is a very big buzzword. Many vendors are confusing the buyer, over promising, over committing. And the honest truth is AI is, I think we're just scratching the surface. It's still growing, maturing, and it's learning. It's more training. The better training, the better it gets in terms of identifying language patterns, reading a contract and telling you what's in there. But it is not going to remove the human element. I don't feel that it's reached a point where you can just drop a document and AI will magically tell you everything's in there that's good or bad and redline it for you and out the door it goes, right? You do need a person to check what it detected. It'll get better. And standard contract types like a sales order or SOW, MSA, supplier agreement, NDAs are great. They are well-trained AI tools. We ourselves have trained thousands of different patterns on over 80 different provisions, all kinds of language. Think about legal and sales and business language. But now, if you had a very industry-specific contract for, I don't know, heavy machinery manufacturing or life sciences, where the language is very unique to that industry, then what you want to do is find a solution that has certainly out-of-the-box training for standard clauses, but lets you actually train more with your own language pattern, because you want that system to work for you, not what the vendor has trained. That's great, but I've got these 5 additional clauses for my industry, for my contracts that I want AI to pick up. Let me train it. So that's the concept behind AI. It comes out of the box with training. You should be able to train more. And it's supposed to help the sales, web ops, legal, finance, procurement, everyone involved in the contract to expedite their job, not to replace their job or do their job. Just make it faster, better, quicker. I'll give you a couple of use cases, maybe 3. One is that initial draft, right? If you have an enterprise client and they say, I don't want to use your MSA or order form, I'm going to send you our standard, because it's a very big global giant company and they are not going to take a vendor's contract. Happens to all of us. Well, it's a 50-page MSA. Do I really want Colin to read that, or can I run it through AI and let's just see how good or bad it is, right? So that's the first use case. Use AI to get that initial review done. Now Colin knows, okay, this thing is really bad and I need to carve out 2-3 hours to sit down and read it. Or AI is telling me, all right, it's pretty darn good. Maybe 2 or 3 clauses are problematic. So I know I can get it done by tomorrow because I have an hour left. So he can manage his time and budget for that review based on AI guidance. Now, let's say you send it out for red lines to the customer and it comes back where they have changed the billing terms or termination or liability. And sales is looking at it and legal has said, okay, sales, that's a business problem, not something. If you want the deal badly, here's all these options I'm going to give you. Wouldn't it be great for sales to say, okay, for similar types of contracts, in the last 10 or 15, 20, what have I actually given into for liability, right? Tell me the historical pattern, the data to make a decision on this current contract. So AI guidance can help you there, right? Now you don't have to decide in a silo. You can actually look at historical pattern that if 9 times out of 10 you have agreed to this liability change, this one time is okay. It's acceptable because that seems to be the pattern. And then of course you can go back to your deal desk and legal and say, guys, I'm changing liability 90% of the time. Why don't we just look at our own clause and fix it, right? So that's what AI and intelligence is meant to do, and it's getting better. The accuracy is improving. The insights are helpful in expediting your deal cycle and getting that contract negotiated. And there's, as I said, it's just scratching the surface. There's a lot more coming in that world, and we're constantly looking for ways and feedback from customers on where we can spend our time and energy to take AI even further.
That is amazing. So the first one really blew my mind. You can upload someone else's paper, like someone else's contract into this and not just build your own. You can upload a completely different 50 pages, 100 pages, whatever, into this platform, and it'll tell you how good or bad it is and how much time you need to spend on it or where you need to focus your time and energy. I think that's incredible.
That's right.
That's a ton of value in itself because, yes, time and time again, especially when you do go after these large companies, they need everything. Their procurement departments need everything on their paper. I have also been there. I started my career out in procurement at a major oil and gas company, and we would say the same thing every time. So I've been on both sides of the fence. I've been the person that has made you do what I wanted you to do, and I've been the person that had to take it, right? But 100% time delta between verbal commit and an executed contract, that's very sacred time. Having those data points available is just such a huge value proposition in general for an organization that is trying to move fast, do better, and make sure that they're staying on top of that cycle time that you mentioned, the entire sales cycle time, and then kind of what you do from a personability perspective and this is the value and the way we operate and the how fast we can move and the sort of information you can expect from us, those type of value points that customers will be looking for and looking at as you're interacting with them. For me, sales is always on edge. We've got legal and deal desk working tirelessly to get the terms right, trying to get everything organized and in the right fashion. There's an entire deal desk, workflow that's been ironed out, all of the stakeholders, 6 different departments, and you've got all this visual that kind of says you've got to do this at this time and this time. And so there's this really long thing that we've made really complicated and complex. And the ball's in our court. The customer's waiting on us. We are making the next move. But when time, it's of the essence, right? And you move fast, you make mistakes, there's a negative impact. It could affect how the customer views your organization. Oh, they're disorganized. They don't know what they're doing. They're taking too long. All of that can be avoided by adopting technology that does the heavy lift for you. That's it. That's really the answer, right? And so I can appreciate that Malbec has created this amazing technology and has thought about it so meticulously that you went to that level of detail that is not even captured in a typical organization today to provide those types of insights.
Think about you work with RFPs, I assume, right?
Yeah.
So when you get an RFP, we all do it. We open it, see how many tabs there are at the bottom, and how many questions are on each tab. That tells me, okay, Matt, you better carve out a week next week to do this, or maybe a few hours, because you know how complex the RFP is. That's when it comes to a third-party contract, same thing for legal. Like, okay, how good or bad or how big is this document? how much time do I need to really allocate? Because if it's due on Friday and I open it up for the first time on Thursday and I realize, oh, this is crazy, I'm going to need 2 days, well, it's too late. So let AI tell you up front, what's in there, how good or bad it is. So now you can plan your time accordingly.
Absolutely. So we're coming up on time here. If anyone watching has any questions, please drop them in the chat. We'll jump over to our key takeaways from this conversation. But if I see any questions pop up, I will shout them out and we will answer them for you. Key takeaways. Colin, go.
Well, I think the key takeaway really at the end of the day is twofold. Number one, technology is not going anywhere. So if anything, it's continuing to play a bigger and bigger role in our lives and in how businesses operate. And in accordance with that, businesses are increasingly making use of and running on data. So can't hide from tech, can't hide from data. So if you want to stay relevant, if you want to stay productive, if you want to be a valued member of your team, got to be fluent in the language of data and got to be familiar with tech and knowing what tech to use at the right time.
100%. Matt, what is your key takeaway?
Yes, technology is not going anywhere. So basically embrace change. There's a lot of new technology out there, adopt it. Don't be afraid of it. Try to get away from status quo, because in the end, if you keep doing the same thing, don't expect different results. So if you want to make a change, you're gonna have to try something different. And then at the end, we always hear, well, I don't have time. I'm too busy to implement a new tool. I don't have resources. I don't have the budget. Well, it doesn't get any easier. It'll be same or worse 6 months from now or a year from now as your organization grows. And at that point, you will want I wish I did it a year ago, right? So there's no better time than now. So embrace the change, adopt something new, because you will get different results if you try something different.
That's the definition of insanity, right? You don't do the same thing over and over again. You switch it up, try something new. I love that. For me, key takeaway is hold your team accountable to SLAs, the amount of time that they spend with things, all implementing technologies like Malbec to demonstrate your commitment to customer obsession. All you're doing is driving something that will further allow you to be able to deliver to your customer expediently and with precision. Their first impression of your ability to create value for them is really demonstrated from the very start of the engagement. When you approach them at the beginning of the sales cycle and they're going on and on and on until the point of an executed contract, that's that full first impression. If you lag off at the end of that first impression, you might lose them. And so it's easy to just really jump into the feel of putting yourself into their shoes. How would I feel if I was going through this experience, and what would my expectations be? And managing that process internally with that same kind of mindset, a growth mindset, customer obsession mindset in the back of your mind at all times.
Indeed, yeah. I think, and we've seen a change in buying behavior as well. People are more open compared to 5 years ago, 10 years ago. And the other thing we're seeing is business now owns the decision making and the application. Business does not want to rely on IT. IT is very busy with your Oracle, SAP, the bigger systems, right? So you want to put in something like this to help you with contracts or operations. You want your business admin to take over, self-service, non-technical, no-code solution, and that's what these modern applications are all about, and that's our focus.
It's amazing. Thank you so much. Hi, Angelica's back.
Hi, I'm back. Thank you so much, Brianna, Ellen, and Matt, for this amazing session, and thank you everyone for attending. We still have a few moments, so if you do have any questions or want to get in touch with our speakers, I did drop their LinkedIn in the chat, so feel free to reach out to them directly. And if you have any questions for our speakers, feel free to drop your questions in the chat or in the Q&A. We still have a few moments. I'm also want to announce that Malbec has a product tour. If you have some time tomorrow, they actually actually have one tomorrow on September 29th at 12:30 p.m. Eastern, and I'll drop the registration link to sign up. If you cannot make it, they definitely have one every month at the end of the next month. So they'll have one in October around the same time. I know Matt had said that they're going to be announcing when the next one is. So definitely sign up anyways to stay tuned for when that next one is. And if you couldn't make the October one, the one in November and so forth and so forth. But definitely want to say thank you again for everyone for attending. Brianna, Colin, and Matt, thank you for your time. And we'll see you at the next event. Thank you, everyone.
Okay. All right.
Thanks, all.
Thanks everyone. Pleasure.
Thank you.